Hello, my name is Sutton King, and I will be discussing one of the largest environmental disasters in European history, the Seveso disaster. This presentation serves as an overview of the Seveso disaster and the impact of 2,3,7,8 tetrachloride dibenzo P-dioxin, also known as TCDD, and its exposure on the community. I will briefly discuss the characteristics of TCDD and the adverse health effects caused as a result of this exposure. Today I will provide you with a brief learning experience that will cover TCDD, or dioxin, an overview, the history of the Seveso accident, levels of TCDD exposure, chloracne and TCDD, the Seveso's Women's Health Study, and a summary followed by the references. 2,3,7,8 tetrachloride dibenzo P-dioxin, also known as TCDD, is a polychlorinated dibenzo P-dioxin and is sometimes shortened, though inaccurately, to dioxin. Pure TCDD is a colorless solid with no distinguishable odor at room temperature. It is usually formed as a side product in organic synthesis and burning of organic materials. TCDD is the most potent compound of its series and became known as a contaminant in Agent Orange, a herbicide used in the Vietnam War. It is a persistent organic pollutant usually present in a complex mixture of dioxin-like compounds, and it is a carcinogen, teratogen, and mutagen. Its exposure routes include inhalation, skin absorption, ingestion, skin and/or eye contact. Hoffmann-La Roche, a Swiss multinational healthcare company, established ICM ESA in Seveso, Italy, a small suburban town 10 miles north of Milan. The company used a chemical called trichlorophenol to make antibacterial surgical soap. When this chemical is heated to about 200 degrees Celsius, it can form TCDD. On July 10, 1976, a severe industrial accident would impact the community and surrounding cities for years to come. On this day, employees prepared to shut down parts of the plant for the weekend. Workers stopped the flow of the steam heating reactor, which stopped the mixing. Reactants in a solvent were usually mixed in a reactor vessel and then distilled to remove the solvent. When workers stopped the mixing, the reaction was not yet complete and started to overheat. The reactor continued to heat to 300 degrees Celsius and the safety valve blew open. The mixture exploded into the open air, causing a white-gray cloud to descend on Seveso and surrounding towns. Over 37,000 people were exposed to unprecedented levels of TCDD. The director of productions told the mayors of the affected towns that this was an aerosol mixture that might contain some toxic substance. ICM ESA took samples and sent them to Switzerland to be tested in specialized laboratory. The company requested that residents be told not to eat local fruit and vegetables. However, local officials were uncertain about the extent of the cloud and did not alert the local residents in order to avoid panic. It would not be until 2 weeks after the exposure that the company spokesperson announced extreme measures were necessary and that there would be an order to evacuate. Debris from this cloud fell south-southeast of the plant on an area of about 700 acres, including parts of the towns of Seveso, Meta, Cesano, Maderno, and Desio. The size of the contaminated area was estimated primarily by measuring TCDD in the soil. Additional criteria included the presence of dead animals and detection of dermal lesions among community members in the area. The contaminated area was divided into 3 zones: Zone A, B, and R, depending on the concentration of TCDD in the soil. Zone A, the most heavily contaminated section, was further divided into 7 subzones, A1 through A7, based on increasing distance from the factory. The total amount of TCDD deposited in the contaminated areas was initially estimated at about 165 grams. Subsequently, it has been estimated to be at least 1.3 kilograms. The extent and level of soil contamination in the zones were measured systematically by using a tight sampling grid. Here you can see that TCDD was highly concentrated in Zone A. On June 1, 1978, a system of epidemiological health monitoring for 220,000 people was launched. The most evident adverse health effect ascertained was chloracne. Chloracne is a rare skin eruption of blackheads, cysts, and nodules. The lesions are most frequently found on the cheeks, behind the ears, in the armpits, and groin region. Chloracne is linked directly to TCDD exposure. In 1981, a study published in the International Journal of Epidemiology examined the chloracne cases. Between September and December 1976, 34 cases of chloracne were diagnosed. Between February and April of 1977, dermatological screening was carried out on all children under 15 years of age attending nurseries and infant and primary schools of 3 health districts. 130 cases were diagnosed, and in total, 164 children were diagnosed. The Seveso Women's Health Study, also known as SWHS, is a retrospective cohort and was the first comprehensive study to examine the reproductive health of a human population exposed to TCDD. In 1996, researchers enrolled 981 women who were 0 to 40 years of age in 1976, lived in the most contaminated areas, and had archived blood samples collected near the explosion. Individual TCDD concentration was measured in archived blood samples by high-resolution mass spectrometry. A total of 833 women participated in the 2008 follow-up study. Researchers examined the relation of serum TCDD with cancer incidence using Cox proportional hazards models. In summary, researchers demonstrated that individual serum TCDD measurements are significantly positively related to overall cancer incidence among women in the SWHS cohort. 1976, an explosion in Seveso, Italy exposed the surrounding population to among the highest levels of TCDD recorded in humans. The Seveso incident brought to attention critical issues such as lack of knowledge on runway reaction scenarios, hazards of formation of TCDD, lack of regulatory requirements, poor communication and coordination, and little or no emergency response or evacuation plans. Since the Seveso disaster 40 years ago, hazard risk identification and occupational safety protocols and procedures have greatly improved. Although this was a learning experience, many live with adverse health effects due to the poor decisions made on 1976.